This month's theme is mental health and self-care. So I guess that's what I'm talking about. I've always been pretty well-adjusted, one would say. It wasn't until like senior year of high school that I ever pulled an all-nighter. And when I got to college, there was definitely like an adjustment period and a lot of like strange sadness that I couldn't really place just from being away from home, which is something I figured out later on. But there's definitely a process of like learning who you are that I had to go throughout university, basically. Just being placed into that kind of space where you're learning not only about all of these like really difficult to understand random classes that you're taking, but also being in a completely different part of the country, a new place. For me, it was 3 time zones away from where I was before. And there were seasons which I'd never experienced before properly. And it was just all just this brand new thing. And I think it's when we have these big changes or like big events happening in our lives that we really get to know ourselves. And in the best case scenarios, kind of get to know what makes us okay, what makes ourselves tick, and what things kind of add up that will become some kind of burden on our mental health. I'm one of possibly the youngest person here, so I don't know if what I'm saying can be useful to the rest of you at all. So I'm just gonna kind of talk about the things I do to keep myself in a good headspace. I definitely am a serial procrastinator, and usually that's kind of fine. Like, I film these videos the day before I need to have them uploaded. I procrastinate on like cashing checks until 3 days before they expire. I try to be proactive by doing vote by mail, but I end up voting the night before. Just that kind of thing. But it's when my brain starts to say to myself that the procrastination is bad. And when the reason that I'm not doing something becomes a form of kind of self-harm and just kind of getting down on myself, that's when I notice, hey, maybe I should step away from the stress or whatever is affecting me at the moment and take some time to reflect, figure out why I'm feeling this way, and kind of replace myself in a position where I can make good choices. So I'll try to do the procrastination thing less because I know my brain is going to start thinking like, oh, you're procrastinating because you deserve this, or you're procrastinating because you know that something bad's going to happen out of this and that's going to be horrible and that is exactly what you want. So I stay away from that kind of thought, and I guess that can kind of be applied to all other kinds of thoughts as well. Just like kind of moving away from the things that you would usually do once they become a method for your brain to kind of spiral and go down into that bad spot that no one wants to be in. And then on the self-care side of things, just through being in that pressure cooker of college, I discovered I really need singing and music in my life in order to just kind of stay at some semblance of stability. In pretty much my worst moments of just mental health not being very good in college, like I realized that if I ever made the choice to not go to choir rehearsal with the thought that I could like catch up on homework instead, it would always be a negative effect overall because my brain would just not have that bit of like, hey, here was this hour and a half of kind of cleansing and meditation that you really need that is kind of forced upon you because it's like an outside source, right? So I realized I needed rehearsals, and it was a really great thing because then I wouldn't get down on myself for going to rehearsal instead of doing work, because at that point I knew that that's what I needed for that all of the stuff to function. So since graduating, I've really been focusing on just keeping those factors in my life pretty stable. I joined a choir here at home, and that weekly kind of rehearsal cycle really helps. Just being around other people who make music has been a really great thing for just keeping myself at a good place. So yeah, those are just a couple things I do with me and my brain. I don't currently suffer from any kind of mental illness or otherwise conditions that would really cause much stress on my ability to function normally as an emotional human being. So these things I do are definitely kind of precautionary and they work for me, but that's just me. That's how my brain works at the moment. I've definitely had times where I had to go to a counselor or a therapist when I was on campus. But I'm in a nice place now that just generally feels nice and sunshiny. I'm very grateful for that. And also just like California has a lot of sun, you guys. So yeah, I'll talk to you all later. Bye.